Yeah, Palace away, winless in their first 8 games. Ollie Glasner under pressure coming into this game as well. It's what the thing is. These kind of games, though, as much as they're winless in 8, and we obviously we should be winning this game. We're going to come into this game favourites. It's these kind of games we always drop points in. It's these kind of games you got to be careful about, because these are the kind of games where teams can catch you off guard. And I actually am a bit worried about this game, to be honest, in a weird way, because the way Palace are set up, if they are going to continue in that back three system, which they have been for the majority of the season, it's the kind of system which we struggle against. And also the fact that they've not won a game, are they going to be a bit of a wounded animal? Are they going to be difficult to play against? Are they going to come out with a bit extra motivation? I think it's like one of two things I'm thinking in my mind, because I actually think, if we were playing Palace, the same Palace as we were at the back end of last season, I'm actually not sure if we win this game, because I think the way they're set up, those 3 very narrow forward players, they've got 3 very strong centre-backs as well, strong, fast. They're very wide with the wing-backs. 2 very good ball-playing defensive midfielders with the likes of Wharton there, and I don't know if Decore's I think he's maybe out for a while, but Eze's buzzing around and things like that. If they were in good form, I'd be very worried about this game. But in a weird way, the fact that they haven't won, the fact they haven't won means obviously they're going to be desperate to win, and they're going to have that extra bit of motivation to get that win. But the fact they haven't won in a weird way means a draw is not a great result for them in a way. And the fact that a draw is not a great result, obviously it's a positive result in the grand scheme in the grand scheme of things. But a draw in this game, it keeps that winless run going, and it means that's 9 games without a win. And it means if they lose that next game, that's all of a sudden that's 10 games, and all of a sudden that draw hasn't helped them at all. So I think the fact that they haven't won means they kind of do need to win this game, and that could play into our favour in a way, the fact they need to win.
The thing is, I don't know if it's a must-win for them, this game, because obviously, when you play a top 5 team, when you're at Crystal Palace, is not a must-win game, regardless of the situation. I think if you're looking at the games for Crystal Palace coming after this, when they go to Wolves away, and they host Fulham at home, and these kind of games, if they get a draw here, and then kind of take momentum out of that and go and win the next 2 games, then all of a sudden it's looking really good for them. Not really good, but a lot better.
I just think when you're a team like Palace, when you finish the season like you did last season, and you're on the run that you are on now, kind of every game is a must-win in a way, because the more games you don't win, the pressure keeps piling on and piling on. The longer you go without that win, the more the pressure builds. If they don't win on Sunday, even if they draw, I don't think that it maybe relieves the pressure a tiny bit, but not much. If the only thing that relieves the pressure is if they win games, and I don't think the narrative, if they get a draw on Sunday is, it's a good draw, they got battle for a draw. I think the narrative is that's 9 games out of win, and the pressure builds.
Maybe the narrative around the media and the fan base, I think I would agree with that. But if you look at the bigger picture, and if they can beat the teams,
they drew away at Chelsea. It didn't help them. The pressure kept building.
No, it didn't help them. Yeah, of course. They got to respond to that draw, and they didn't respond in that moment in time. But if they got Wolves next, Wolves away. Let's say they don't win against Spurs. It's 2 teams that are going winless so far in this Premier League season. That game is massive for both teams. So if they can get a draw in this game and then go and beat Wolves, then suddenly they will be drifting up the table a little bit.
Yeah, of course. But let's say if they draw against Spurs, then draw against Wolves, then the pressure's massive.
Of course, but it's how they respond to getting a point against Tottenham.
If they beat Spurs and then draw against Wolves, that's still a good couple of weeks. So that's what I'm saying. They kind of need that win to really relieve the pressure, because even if they don't if they don't win this game, he could be gone if they don't win that Wolves game.
What I'm saying is he'll be judged a lot more on that Wolves game than he will on this Tottenham game.
I think he's going to be judged big on this game, because they're 8 games out of win. So every game he's being judged on now. When you're on this kind of run, they could be playing Man City. I think he's getting judged on it because they're 8 games out of win.
Yeah, you're always going to get judged on every performance, but that Wolves game is a lot more to judge when it's 2 out of form teams, where both those teams shouldn't really be where they are right now. Both of these teams have the quality to be 5 or 6 places above where they are. Both these managers are going to get heavily judged on that Wolves game, where this Tottenham game, if you ask 20 people, 19 of them will probably say, yeah, this is a nailed-on Tottenham win.
I think we need a Palace fan to tell us, because I just feel like...
No, I get what you're saying, and you're right to a certain extent. You're right in saying that, yeah, he is going to get judged on this game, and if they lose, it's not good enough because of the narrative of the season so far. But if you look at it from the bigger picture, when Tottenham come to a team like Palace, like we've got a very good record at Palace, no matter what kind of form they're coming into the game. So it's hard to judge on that specific game. It's hard to judge when you're facing a top 5 or top 6 team. You're looking at Palace's results this season. Their 2 best performances of the season have come against the bigger teams. They narrowly lost to Liverpool 1-0, and they took a 1-1 against Chelsea. So there is something in it.
That's why I'm worried about this game, because they are a good team. Whatever people want to say and whatever form they're on, they've got very good players. I look at their back three: Lacroix, Guehi, who's the other? Chalobah. 3 very good players on the ball. 3 very tall centre backs. 3 very physical centre backs. That's tough to break down. They've got wing backs. Munoz, Mitchell, fast. They can play out wide. They can attack space. In the middle they got Wharton there. I don't know if he's fit, but they got, Wharton's a very good ball player, very strong. They got Eze, who's, I know, people have been clowning on him because he's taken the most shots out scoring, but I actually think he's actually playing quite well. Things aren't just going in his favour. I watched him against Forest. I thought he was head and shoulders the best Palace player for sure, and he was very unlucky not to get on the score sheet. It was only the keepers who made some worldy saves, and he scored a brilliant goal away at Chelsea as well. So I think he's playing better than a lot of people give him credit for, just because some things aren't going in his favour. You've got Ismail Assar. He's a very good player. Kamada, he's an underrated player. Up front, Nketiah and Mateta, physical, offer different things. Mateta last season, end of the season, unbelievable. One of the best strikers
games at the moment. Mateta.
Yeah, they seem to be. They seem to be dropping him at the moment, but they seem to be playing Nketiah up front, which I would much rather. I'd much rather have Nketiah up front than Mateta, because Mateta's so physical. But both of them are going to give us trouble. So as much as they're on bad form and we come into favourites, if I'm looking at it tactically, the way we play, it's actually a very good setup, because 3 centre backs covering where Solanke is. You've got 2 wing backs attacking the space, can be left by our inverted wing backs. We leave like 2 centre backs alone a lot of the time around that back line, and they've got 3 very narrow forwards, and if we're going to play 2 attacking mids, right, which they're going to be very much attacking in that space, if they've got 3 very narrow forwards up front, how it's going to be very difficult for our that middle 3 of Romero, Van de Ven and Basuma to contain those 3 in the middle there. And then they've got the wing backs, attacking that space where the fullbacks should be. So the fullbacks are going to be occupied by those wing backs. And then you've got 3 versus 3 in that middle there, which is very, very difficult. So I actually think tactically, it's very, I can see where they get advantages here.
There's that, which, they're always going to be a tough team to play against, particularly, with their defensive structure. And Munoz, he's got that quality on the right-hand side. I think he's a really good player, Munoz, in terms of a wing-back. They've got rid of Elise, who was massive for them over the past couple of years. They haven't really replaced him with it's hard for a team like Crystal Palace to replace quality like Michael Elise, but they've brought in Eddie Nketiah, and they brought in someone else as well in the front line. I can't remember who else, but it's just not the same quality, isn't it? Ismail Assar. It's just not the same quality, is it?
And they're missing him, because I think the biggest person who's missing him is obviously Eze, who had his partner in crime kind of thing, and
they worked so well together.
They were brilliant together, and he just teams struggled to deal, because they're both so great in one-on-one situations. They're both such great dribblers, but when you have that synergy together, they had like a telepathic relationship, and they're both brilliant long-range shooters. They're brilliant cross deliverers, and it was almost like when they were linking up together, they were kind of unstoppable. They had unbelievable synergy. Sarr and Kamada haven't given them that, to be honest. Kamada, he's a very different type of player. He's much more of a functional midfielder. Ismail Assar is very, very different to Elise. He's much more of a straight line runner, more similar to kind of like a Dama Traore. Can get to the byline, but I feel like Sarr is much more of like an individual kind of player where he will take people on himself. He's not as much of a link-up player, whereas Elise is much more of a pass and move, give and take and link-up kind of player. As much as he was good at dribbling as well, he's much more of a link-up player than Ismaili Sarr is. So I think Eze is kind of missing that relationship he had with Elise massively. And I feel like Eze maybe feels like he's got to do a lot of it by himself now. Maybe that's why you see him taking a lot more shots from outside the box and doing these things. As much as he did that quite a bit with Elise, he's doing it a lot more now because I feel like because he doesn't have that player to link up with like he did with Elise, I feel like he feels like he has to take he's become a lot more selfish, I feel, Eze. And maybe that's to the detriment of the team.
I feel because you're looking at two teams that are coming into it in the polar opposites of form. And I feel like kind of mentality can come into a lot of this in terms of coming into it with confidence. Palace might start the game well, but I feel like if we come out playing like we have done in the Premier League over the past few weeks and get an early goal or something, I think that negativity can seep through. You know, you'll start to hear murmurs in the crowd about the manager. You'll start to see maybe Palace players playing within themselves a little bit. And I feel like confidence can play a massive part in this game.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very difficult tactical game. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult than people think it will be. I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle. I'm actually thinking about it now, and tactically, I actually think the best move might be to play Sarr ahead of Maddison. As much as it depends, it's a difficult one because they play a back five with two kind of defensive mids, Lerma and Wharton, or Lerma and Will Hughes. So it's going to be tough to break down, and in a way, you kind of want Maddison and Decky there for that relationship they have, for as much offensive ability that they have, and that link-up play. And they might be able to exploit those pockets left behind their two defensive mids, and that could be a very good way to exploit them. But I feel like if we keep a clean sheet in this game, we might win. So I think that might be, I don't think... Because I do think we'll score, and I think the only way we don't win this game is if Palace can get too much encouragement going the other way. And I think if we can just shut up shop, make sure we're shutting down Eze, I think we definitely win the game. Whereas if we play Maddison, I think we probably create more chances, but we might concede more chances, and that's what I'm worried about. So I feel like you stop Eze and you kind of stop Palace, I think, and maybe the best way to do that is to play Sarr. I'm thinking about it when I think about it in that way. So maybe that's what I'll do, but it's a difficult one because, you know, do we lose too much without having Maddison and Decky together? That's the question.
Where's the confidence about you, man? 7 wins in the last 8 games.
I know, I'm confident we'll probably get the win, but this is a weird one. It's actually a weird one because I actually think Palace, they're in a false position, and I actually think they're a lot better than their position
But they're not performing that way.
I know, but you know how it is.
It's not like they're performing well and suddenly they're getting bad results.
But they did perform well on the top against the top teams.
Yeah, they performed fairly well.
They could have got a point easily in that Liverpool game. And
I still think Liverpool deserved to win that game.
Potentially, but they got an early goal and they didn't actually do much after that, Liverpool. And late in the game, Alisson got injured and they had a few moments. You know, Kelleher or whoever that keeper was, had to make a couple of saves to keep it in the lead. And as much as maybe Palace didn't create enough, like Liverpool were very quiet after they scored that goal. Mm-hmm. And like I think that's a lot to do with how Palace play a lot. And they did get a draw away at Chelsea, albeit, you know, Chelsea missed a lot of chances, but still Eze got the goal and they failed to break them down. So what my point is, why I'm a bit worried about it is they do have quite a good defensive structure. As much as they're failing to win, they're not conceding that many goals at the moment. And so they're still quite resolute. And they do have Eze. They do have people like Sarr who can attack space. They do have Mateta. And so if we go into this game thinking we're going to be playing Palace on their worst day, we could come unstuck. And that's what I'm worried about. And tactically as well, they're actually quite well set up to combat what we do. Like that's one of the better setups to combat how we play. So that's why I'm coming into this game thinking, I'm just worried that the players are going to be thinking, yeah, we're playing bottom of the, or 18th from the league, because we're not playing 18th from the league, in my opinion. We're playing a team who are much better than that, and that's how we got to look at it. Yeah,
well, like I said, I feel like mentality and kind of the way things are going for Palace could go massively in our favour as well. On the flip side, because I think if one goal goes in early, I feel Palace could kind of panic a little bit and maybe leave a few more gaps for us, and we could really go for the kill, because I think we can exploit those gaps that Crystal Palace will leave. You know, we've got a very, very good record against Crystal Palace. Ever since we lost 3-0 there with Japhet Tanganga, I think we've won every single game against them. I think 5 there you go, 5 games in a row, 3-0, 4-0, 1-0, 2-1, 3-1. If you could bring it on screen, that's the so I mean, we do have a really good record against them.
I'm trying to look when the last time we played against a back three. Well, I think it was Brentford, and to be fair, we did exploit them quite well. We won that game 3-1. Yeah, look, last season. To be fair, but last season we had our struggles in a way. I think we probably deserved both wins, but the away game, I remember first half, it wasn't a great performance, and it took an own goal to open it up a bit, and we ended up.
But we're a different team this season.
We are better. We are better this season, and they're worse. You could probably argue as well. So that maybe plays into our hands. I don't know. I've got a weird feeling about Sunday. I've just got a weird feeling, and I think as well when I look at how they're set up and how not just how they're tactically set up, but the kind of players they have. It's going to be very difficult.
Your weird feeling is a feeling that probably all Spurs fans have. It's just the Spurs kind of mentality, because we know Dr. Tottenham is always there around the corner, and this is like a classic Dr. Tottenham game, isn't it? You know, 7 wins in our last 8, coming into it against second bottom or bottom of the league, wherever they are, winless without the whole season. And the way Spurs are playing right now, there's a great feeling around the club. It's just these kind of games that Spurs do sometimes lose and do sometimes drop points in. However, I think with the Brighton game happening so recently, I can't believe that Ange Postecoglou is going to let that happen for a second time.
But it's different because Palace is just a lot less open. So Brighton, we had all this space to play in, and we love that. But when a team sits deep like Palace, especially with a 5 at the back, then all of a sudden, you know, it can be very, very difficult. I'm looking at their games this season. Only one game, which is the West Ham game, has there been more than a goal in it. So every game has been tight. Every game has been close. So if anything, it's definitely not going to be. I don't expect a big win here. I don't expect us to blow them away. But
also, you look at it, and the 2 teams that we've played this season that you can probably liken a bit to Palace in terms of their defensive solidity are Brentford and Everton, and we've scored 4 goals against Everton and 3 goals against Brentford. So we're clearly getting better against these kind of teams.
Yeah, well, they were at home, and this is different. This is away from home against a team who need the points desperately, like who are on a run, and as well it's dangerous because they're in a bit of a false position. It is quite a kind of a dangerous game. As I said, I actually think in a weird way, the fact they need to, in my opinion, the fact they need to win might help us, because I don't think a draw is a great result for them. As much as probably it was obviously. So in general, a draw to Spurs is probably positive, but in this kind of situation, I actually don't think it's the best result. So will they be a bit more attacking, a bit more open than they would typically be in this game? Potentially, that could play in our favour. But if they come into this game thinking a draw is a good result, I can actually see us struggling a bit, and I can actually see them playing a very smart and tactical game. We've got to be very careful here, because if we don't think we're playing the best version of Palace, they can outdo us. I really believe that.
A big situation that we need to keep an eye on. Obviously, in the press conference, Ange Postecoglou said Sonny not going to be ready for this game, which is, you know, really frustrating, because he comes back after a 2-week break, puts in an unbelievable performance against West Ham. Mikey Moore's obviously just put in the unbelievable performance last night. Odegaard came on and impressed. Werner obviously got hauled off at half-time. Which way is Ange going to go with it? Which way do you want to go with it?
I think in this specific situation, I'd probably go with Mikey Moore, just because it's a perfect excuse to put him in. I don't think you're putting too much pressure on him by putting him in. I think it's the logical thing to do. So I don't think you're like shoehorning him in here. I think he's had a great game. You know Son's injured. You've kind of got an excuse with Odegaard because he's only just come back from injury and he hasn't quite got up to speed. You know Werner's on low confidence at the moment, and you hold him off at half-time, and you know Mikey Moore, you know, played brilliantly on the left-hand side. So I think it's a great excuse to play him, and I think it won't put too much pressure on him in this game, because you kind of have to play him, because you're not left with many options. So it's not like you're putting pressure on Moore to say, you know, we're choosing you because, you know, we're putting pressure on you to perform here. It's kind of like we got no other option. So, you know, don't stress yourself out. Just try and enjoy yourself, kind of thing, and see what you can do. And maybe that pressure off him can lead to him putting a good game here. The only problem I have with it is Palace are quite a physical team, and especially their right centre back is Lacroix, and he's big and physical, and he's like 6'2", and he's fast. And if Moore comes up against him, do I see him getting too much joy right now? I mean, I don't know. That's the question. Munoz is quite a quick player as well. I actually think he could get a bit of joy out of Munoz, to be honest. But Munoz is a wing back, right? So is Moore going to be focused on tracking Munoz back and doing a bit of defensive work, the way they play? So am I worried that Moore might not make the impact in this game? Maybe, but I'll make that excuse for a lot of the other players we have. And Werner in this kind of game, I don't know if he makes an impact because the space is going to be restricted. Moore's a bit more of a nimble dribbler, so I think it's just a good excuse to play more.
There's Odebear as well.
Yeah, we got Odebear. We do have Odebear, and he looked sharp when he came on. So maybe we do go with him, but I don't know if he's 100% fit. He's, he didn't want to start him on Thursday. And he said his minutes were going to be game dependent. He did have a few minutes and he did well, but it was only 3 minutes. So, is he ready to start? I don't know. If he's not, I think Moore's the best option.
Yeah. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd probably throw Mikey Moore in. You never know what kind of condition he's in, though. He put in a lot into that game yesterday, Mikey Moore, and whether he'd be too tired or fatigued to play 2 games in a row. Because Ange Postecoglou did say as well in his press conference today that a few of the players are pretty fatigued after last night. And I imagine Mikey Moore probably would be one of those.
Yeah, so I'll have to wait and see what conditions he's in. Hopefully, come Sunday, maybe he'll be all right to start the game, but maybe not. And if not, you might be looking at Werner again. But
yeah. Which is not anyone. No one wants to see that. But score prediction.
2-1. I actually think it's going to be a tight game. I think, if Palace weren't on the form they're on, I might actually probably go for us to drop points here because I do think it's going to be a really difficult game. I think because they're on that form, I actually think a draw's not great. So I actually think they might be a bit more open, and that might be a bit of space that we need to win this game. So I'm going for a 2-1 win, but I just think it's going to be difficult on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a bit more difficult than people envisaged, but I still think with Spurs' confidence coming into the game and Palace's confidence, I feel like if we can get an early goal, it will rock them a little bit, and you'll see negativity starting to seep through in that stadium with winless all season. So I'm banking on us to start really fast, get the early goal, and the gaps to start to appear for us. So it will be a difficult game, but I think Spurs will get over the line, and by the end of it, I feel like we'll feel it's quite convincing. We've got a very good record against Crystal Palace, 2 wins on the bounce at Selhurst Park as well. So I'm going to go for 3-1 to Spurs. That is my prediction. Let us know your predictions in the comments section below.